All right. Hey, everyone. It is Janine with Jet Travel. Welcome back. It is Tuesday, again, the last Tuesday of February. Not sure where the winter's going, but I'm okay with saying goodbye to it. Not sure how you all are feeling. We are back, and this week, even though the snow is around us here in northern Wisconsin, we are talking about all things Alaska. We'd like to welcome Bill, one of our preferred partners with Nightly Tours. Bill, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. No, thank you for joining us. So let's just start out a little bit with you giving us a little bit intro about you and so we know who we're talking with today.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I've had been in this business for no, I started in 1978, went to Whitehorse, Yukon to work for a little company known as Holland America West Tours.
Oh, just little.
It was a lark. It was a summer job. It was not supposed to work out into anything. It has turned out to be a career in travel. Well, I've left Alaska travel a few times to take other jobs within Holland America and Princess Cruises. In 2003, I moved back to Seattle, and the owner of Nightly Tours was looking at retiring, so I bought the controlling interest of Nightly Tours and have been doing this ever since. Truly a labor of love. I love the destination. One of the questions you asked, how many times have I been there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I worked there solidly the summers of 78 through 1980. Okay. And then I lived full time there from 80 to 84. Sorry. And since that time, I probably make anywhere from 2 to 5 trips a year to Alaska. So I've got one of the questions answered already.
There you go. It's like a second home almost to you.
It very much so.
Very cool.
I thought what I would do, folks, is I'd give you a quick update on who we are, what we are, in case you don't know. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a quick example of one of the vacations that we put together. And then my goal is to get that all done in about 7.5 minutes. So that there's a lot of time for questions and answers. I'm assuming that you all could see my screen. Mm-hmm. And so I'm ready to go. So let's start. How am I doing? here? Oh, there we are. Okay.
There we go.
How's that? There we go.
Perfect. Love it.
Here's our quick agenda. Very simple. Who are we? Nightly Tours 2020, our 51st year in business. We consider ourselves a custom vacation planner. We started as a pure tour company, but we morphed. One of the things we have is our staff is like fine wine. Maybe a little older, but it's got a lot of maturity and a lot of experience to help you put your vacations together. One thing that sets us apart from most Alaska vacation planners is that we don't own any assets. We only use suppliers that your clients, our guests, rate highly. And we also have a 24-hour after hours manager on duty who's an actual Nightly's employees. Everybody takes a cell phone home, including yours truly. So when your clients call if they have a problem, they talk directly to a Nightly team member who can make a difference.
That's awesome.
Our ever-changing sea of COVID-19 regulations. Mm-hmm. Right now, the state of Alaska only recommends that you get a PCR test 3 days prior. Mm-hmm. Enter the results in the portal. The state will give you areas where you can get a test. Alaska has the highest rate of vaccination on a percentage basis of any state in the union right now. So the good news is Alaska is becoming a safer and safer place to visit. So when you build an Alaska vacation, what do they want to see? Hasn't changed in 40 years of research. They want to see mountains, particularly Denali. They want to see glaciers. And they want to see my fuzzy little friend here. They want to see wildlife. Hasn't changed. 4 through 10 changes every year. The big three are always the big three. The one thing you will find in a Nightly vacation is we always include those three. Or try to.
Right.
Now, a couple questions you asked. Can Alaska be done on one trip? Well, Alaska is 2.5 times the size of Texas. Minnesota has 10,000 lakes. Alaska has 3 million. Alaska has 33,000 miles of coastline, which is more than the lower 48 put together. 29 volcanoes, 50% of the world's glaciers, 20 of the tallest mountains in North America, 17 of them live in Alaska. The Yukon River travels 1,875 miles in Alaska. It's not the longest river in the United States, but it is the longest river flowing in any one contiguous state. And with just under 735,000 people living there, it's about a square mile per person. So we invented social distancing.
Exactly.
Here you can see sort of how it looks laid over the continental United States. Stretches from Jacksonville to San Francisco. Here is a quick sample of one of our programs. We call this the Denali Vacation.
Okay.
It starts in Anchorage and ends in Fairbanks.
Okay.
It includes a 26 Glaciers cruise, includes dome rail travel to Denali, a free day in Denali, a morning free in Denali, on to Fairbanks, a Fairbanks sightseeing tour, and then home. So what you get to see is you start here in Anchorage, we go down to Whittier to go out to see Six Glaciers, then we work our way through Denali National Park and into Fairbanks.
Got it.
You can see that while you say, look how much I've seen, you can also see how much you haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
So
nope, that's awesome. And Bill, I just want to ask a quick question if I don't want to jump in.
Certainly.
Are you going to talk more about the dome rails coming up here quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I'll just let you keep going. Sorry, because that was one thing I really want to talk to you about a little bit more about too.
Klondike Express. This is actually in College Fjord. This is the boat that goes out to shows you 26 glaciers in a day. And part of the trip is a trip on the Alaska Railroad, going along, turning an arm to and from Anchorage. It's a beautiful trip. It's a great way to end your cruise. We use all three luxury dome products in Alaska. We use the Alaska Railroad's Gold Star. This is a picture of the McKinley Explorer with Holland America, and we use Princess's Midnight Sun Express. So we have access to all of them. We always try and include some kind of luxury dome rail product in every vacation. Here's a picture when the train actually slopes down by the river, just around by Talkeetna. Of course, there's the McKinley right background for you. One of the highlights is in Fairbanks, a cruise on the Chena and Tanana on the riverboat Discovery. This family's been on the river for 4 generations. Oh, 5 now. It's the 5th generation on the river. So it is a family-run company, and they they do just an awesome job. Questions?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about Alaska, because oftentimes we get questions from clients on how do I see Alaska, how I can do it. One thing I really love that you touched on is that Alaska this year is going to be really different than it has in the past, because there is a strong possibility there won't be cruise ships. So it's going to be a much quieter place to get to. So land packages, which is totally customizable with nightly tours, is a great way to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And we have vacations that will start Southeast Alaska, go to Glacier Bay, and come north. One of the big questions is, the first 3 was how do you see it and what's the best way? Well, there is no doubt that one of the best ways to see Southeast Alaska is still cruising. There's no doubt about it. It's one of the best ways, right, and a very cost-effective way. However, there are other things in Southeast Alaska to see and do, but you can see by that map of how much space there is in Alaska. So you could do it in one trip, but you'd want to give yourself about 20 days.
Okay.
So you'd be much better to break it up into some different trips. And this is what we have found over the years, especially as cruising has grown. People say, well, I've done that cruise and I took a Holland America program up to Denali and Fairbanks. What can we do next? Right. Well, I'll go back here a little bit and see if I can, pardon me for giving you whiplash.
No, that's okay.
But as you can see, Southeast Alaska here is a gorgeous area. And what people do once they've done this is they want to go up and explore this area, the Arctic, Prudhoe Bay and Barrow. Mm-hmm. And then over on the eastern side is the Wrangell St. Elias National Park. Now, The Wrangell St. Elias National Park is pretty much like Denali was 40 years ago.
Oh,
It is unexplored.
cool.
A little tough to get to, but it's well worth the time. But you can see once they've done this sort of trip and this sort of, the next logical expansion is here.
Is there?
Then you can start going down here down here in the Aleutian chain and out this way.
Yeah.
So people, you want to get the 3 program bits and pieces in, mountains, glaciers, wildlife. You can do that all in Southeast Alaska, which is why the cruises are so popular, because
Right.
you can't see mountains, you can't see glaciers, and you can see wildlife.
Right.
Same thing you can do in no matter where you go. You can always include that in any trip in Alaska.
Got it. Perfect. All right. So let's talk about some fun things. Since you are such, since you've been in Alaska, lived there, keep going back. What are some of the favorite foods that us as travelers visiting to Alaska that we should try when we are up there?
There's probably 3.
Okay.
One of my favorite dishes is baked halibut,
Okay.
which is delicious. There's always grilled salmon, which of course is a staple of Alaska.
Mhm.
But a couple of things that you might not get in other places, and it's really tough to find. There is a company just outside of Anchorage that produces reindeer sausage,
Oh.
and that is delicious. The other one that you probably can't get is friends of mine hunt, and there is nothing like caribou or moose. Slow cooked venison is delicious, but it's very tough to get in a restaurant. Most restaurants don't do it.
Right.
Most of the venison that you get is deer and stuff, and it is farm raised down in the lower 48. But
Okay.
those are things that you can have. And then, of course, last but by no means least, you got to have the king crab. The king crab is fabulous. It's expensive. It's hard to harvest, but boy, oh boy, it is a wonderful. If you've never had it, it's a completely different taste than stone crab or some soft shell crab or even Dungeness crab for those that lived on the West Coast. It's a different type of meat, and it's very delicious.
Got it. Nope, that sounds awesome. So just makes my mouth water thinking about all the crab, especially. See, I love the seafood because you can't beat it when you get up to Alaska or anywhere on some coast, but Alaska, it's really great. So when someone comes to Alaska, what is one thing that you would tell them you have to pack in that suitcase of yours?
You have to pack a little bottle. It's probably no more than about 4 inches, and it's to keep away the national bird of Alaska, which is the mosquito and the black flies. And everybody says, well, what time of year are the mosquitoes and the black flies? The minute it warms up and there's standing water. And that can happen in different parts of the state at different times of the year. But if you bring DEET or off, you're always protected. As you take tours, like into the Back Bay of Denali and places like that, good thing to wear. A lot of times they never bother you, but just to have it. What happens is once you get bitten, you go, oh, why did I do that? So.
Right. So, since you just brought up Denali, let's talk about that. Because one thing we often talk with clients about is like, okay, we want to go Denali. How do you know how long to spend in Denali? Because Denali is a large national park. So is there a specific tour that is pretty all-encompassing or gives you a good feel of the park? Should we do 1 day? Should we do 3 days? Do we do it on our own? Do we do it escorted? Tell us a little bit more about Denali.
Well, in Denali National Park, it is huge. But there's only one road, so I don't think I can make this any bigger. But if you come up here to Denali National Park, you can see a little faint line here.
Yep.
It goes back to Kantishna. That is going right through the middle of Denali National Park.
Okay.
There are a number of ways to see Denali National Park, but there's only one road.
Okay.
So if you're a hiker, if you're a walker, there are lots of trail systems up there, and you can spend a half a day doing that. I always recommend people do what we call our best of Denali, which is you take a coach out in the morning, all the way through this 95 miles of road back to Kantishna. We have
Okay.
lunch at a lodge one of the lodges back here.
Mhm.
And then you fly sea back over the park, coming back
Oh.
park entrance. So that gives you in about a 8 to 10 hour day, gives you some views of the national park that you'll never have. I always say you need 2 days. 4 days is too many. You can do almost everything you want to do in Denali in 3 days, 3 overnights. And we use a lot of our vacations that start in Fairbanks
Mhm.
and end in Anchorage, or start in Anchorage and end in Fairbanks. And the reason being is that the way the transportation to and from the park is designed,
Mhm.
it was designed to move in one direction. And your Anchorage to the park is 238 miles.
Okay.
The park to Fairbanks is 120. So if you come back to Anchorage, you spend, the travel time for 120 miles repeating the same scenery you've seen.
Right.
So that's why if you carry through to Fairbanks, yes, it costs you probably about $100 more on an open jaw fare,
Right.
but you get another full half day in Denali National Park. So you can arrive at noon on the train from Anchorage.
Mhm.
You can arrive at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a train from Anchorage. If you spend 1 day and you spend 2 days, you catch the 4 o'clock train to Fairbanks. So you get 48 hours in the park
Okay.
to do tours. So always look at a one-way trip through Denali.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay, cool. So what if I like bringing gifts back for clients or for my friends and family too. So if I am buying something for what is the perfect Alaska souvenir to bring back home?
Again, it's how much do you want to spend? But we have wonderful native artisans in Alaska. And one of the things that they do, and you can only bring it out if it's been what they call scrimshod,
Okay.
is to bring out a piece of ivory that one of the natives have drawn a design on.
Oh.
It is fat. They use walrus tusks. They use walrus teeth. They use all of that ivory that comes out of the walrus, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The artisans, then again, you can bring baskets back. You can bring many other beadwork that's been done. The native art is unbelievable. So definitely worth bringing back and easy to pack.
Okay. Perfect. So we often get, being in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, we often get a lot of outdoors people who want to go experience Alaska this kind of the same way. Like we have a lot of fishermen and women in our area. So if we have someone who's really interested in fishing, what are some destinations or spots that they should be looking at visiting when they're up in Alaska?
So when we have somebody calls up fishing, we ask 10 questions roughly.
Okay.
Do they want saltwater, freshwater?
Mm-hmm.
Do they want salmon or halibut? Do they want to catch the salmon in the river or,
On a boat.
in the ocean? Are they meat fishermen? Or is this, I'm going to Alaska with my wife and she's allowed me to go fishing for a day? They are different experiences all over the place.
Got it.
And so we are very careful on how we do that, because the guys going to a fishing lodge, they will go out to Naknek or out into the Kodiak area, and they'll go fish at a lodge on Bristol Bay. If it's a husband and wife, we will generally do a more what a controlled fishing trip, like out of Seward, Homer, whereby they go down and they fish on bigger boats. They're a little more high density, but they catch fish and they bring them back and process them, so they have the thrill of catching fish.
Cool.
If you're a river fisherman, there's a lodge that's right on the river that combines both river fishing and ocean fishing. There's further up in Talkeetna here, there's a wonderful fishing company that catches salmon in the river. They also catch trout, Dolly Varden. In Denali, the big one is grayling, which are just so much because they fight like hell.
Ooh.
And so Again, it depends on what type of fishing they want to do, but they're abundance fishing no matter where they're.
Got it.
And then there are the Uber lodges like down in Southeast Alaska, just outside of Ketchikan here. There's a place called Waterfall Resort. It was an old cannery. Literally, if you touch a fish, it's because you wanted to reach into the bait bucket. That's, I call that Gucci fishing. I mean, it's just first class all the way. So
cool. Very cool. So when should we plan trips to Alaska? It's generally a shortened season if you want to come when it's like nice, when it's a little bit warmer, more daylight. But if we wanted to come in early spring or late fall, are there some advantages to that?
I always liken this to cold potato soup or vichyssoise. It depends on what you want. There is no doubt that coming in May and June, you get a nice different pace. You see the warmth and the daylight increase. You also get a much bigger chance seeing unique things like a mama moose giving birth beside the road in Denali National Park. The reason she does that is the bears don't want to go anywhere near the road.
Oh.
So she's smart. You get to see things like that.
Okay.
As you come up and you get warmer weather, the animals tend to move up a little bit into the valleys and move deeper into the park. So a little harder to see them. They're there, but they do move. May and June, you can see the change. You can see the change. You can come into Anchorage one day, go down to Seward, come back, and all the trees will be green leaves. That's how quickly it happens. So that's a fascinating thing. Now you go to the other side. Yeah, then you start getting into June, July, early August. You've got the warmer weather, the longer days. I mean, that's in itself is beautiful. Then you get to the end of August and those couple weeks in September. And, New England, you're waiting till October to get the fall colors. You get the fall colors earlier in Alaska. Again, a little cooler, but very beautiful. So it all depends on what you're interested in. A lot of times it's dictated to when do the grandkids get out of school.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, fine. Mom and grandpa have been there. They're going to take everybody to Alaska. That's something we do really well, by the way, is multi-generational trips, because we have the ability to blow the family up during the day, make sure they're all back here tonight.
Yep.
And do that. So
yeah, and create some wonderful memories too, because
yes,
that's just something you'll always talk about in the future.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about what's one of the biggest mistakes that people often make when they travel to Alaska.
Couple things. One, Rand McNally makes you think it's no bigger than Vermont.
Right.
So you think you can do it in 7 days.
Right.
You can see a good chunk of it in 7 days, but you can't see Alaska in 7 days. But that's one thing. Number two is the perception that hotels are higher rated than they are. Most of the hotels are 3 stars, 3+ stars, realistically. But they charge 4 and 5 star rates because they only operate for 120 days. So people are sometimes got a little sticker shock at times that this is, what do you mean? I can stay at a Hyatt for less money.
Right.
Yes, that Hyatt has 365 days. Denali Park Village has 120.
Right.
So, and you still want that same kind of creature comfort. So you do pay a higher price for that. Those are probably two of the biggest mistakes, is thinking you can get too much done, and a little sticker shock when it comes done, when it comes time.
Right. Yeah. Shortened season, we can only do so much in so little time, and everyone wants to go there during that time frame. So planning out is often something that we suggest to clients. So if we are planning for an Alaska trip and say I wanted to go in July, when should I start planning that?
Luckily this year, because you don't have to fight with the cruise people, it's always sooner than later, because we know what'll happen now with no cruise business. People will start to adjust schedules, and we're sort of seeing a little bit of that start to occur. so you want to get on the book so we know where you are, so we can go to our vendors and say, here's what we got. Don't mess with these departures, those kind of things. Sooner is always better than later.
Yeah.
But the late bookers, people are waiting for vaccines, people are waiting for this. It's going to be one of those summers in Alaska where I don't want to say delaying is good, but don't not sell it because you think it's too close in.
Got it.
People will be there. We get a sudden burst in June when all the parents realize they haven't planned a summer vacation.
Exactly.
We're generally able to always accommodate them. So
got it. Cool. Well, all right, Bill, I think I've gotten through most of my big questions. Oh, one thing we didn't talk about. What is one experience that people often overlook? What is one thing when they go to Alaska that they don't necessarily think about that they might want to?
one of the things two things. One, take your time and roll with the punches. This is still a frontier state. Things happen. Things go bump in the night. And there's one thing Alaskans is super hospitable, and they will always try and make lemonade out of lemons. They are those kind of people. Mm-hmm. Number two, I think a lot of people see the cost of going and actually seeing the bears in natural habitats. Mm-hmm. They balk at the price. Mm-hmm. You do fly out on a small plane, you spend time out there, and they go, oh, I'll do that some other time. Well, that's one of the highlights of the trip, is seeing the bears. It's an $800 to $900 day. We make no bones about it. It just is what it is. It's right. Airplane insurance. It's small loads. It's, small people at a time. So, but it is an experience that people come back and go, oh my goodness, I would have been really wrong not to do that. So, okay. There is those things. And also seeing glaciers. I mean, great. I don't care what you are. You see a glacier calve in front of you. It's a pretty moving experience. So
cool. Well, awesome. Well, Bill, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And to end our little talk this evening, we have the lightning round for you. So if you are prepared, I have some questions I will ask you. I have my timer on for 1 minute.
Okay.
So we will go through these as quick as possible. First thing to your head, just go ahead and spit out the answer. And let's go. All right. Are you window or aisle seat on an airplane?
Aisle.
What is one thing you always pack in your carry-on?
An extra pair of underwear.
Hiking or fishing?
Fishing.
If you can have lunch with anyone, if you can eat anything for lunch, what would it be?
I would probably have a grilled salmon burger.
What is your favorite food?
By far, Ossobuco.
What Alaskan animal would you choose to be if you have a choice?
Caribou.
If you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would it be?
Probably Tuscany.
What do you currently miss most about travel?
The people. I miss meeting the people in the countries.
Where do you want to travel next?
Probably go to Normandy and see the beaches.
Cool. And we've just hit our time limit. All right, awesome. Thank you for participating in our lightning round, and thank you for joining us and sharing your love of Alaska with us and our clients. We really appreciate it here. If anyone has any questions specifically for Bill and from Nightly Tours on anything we've discussed today, please reach out to us here at Jet. We'd love to get you those answers. Or if you'd like to look at doing a land tour in the future, we'd love to be able to hook you up and make those dreams come true. So with that being said, Bill, thank you again for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the invite, and thank you everybody for taking time this morning. We hope to see you in the great state this year.
That is perfect. Yes. So everyone have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will see you next Tuesday. And watch for any more announcements on fun stuff that we're going to be doing here at Jet. Have a great day.